doing a review for my favorite show, The 100. This would be Season 3, Episode 13, entitled Join or Die. So I'll get it out. I did like tonight's episode. I thought it was very intriguing and it held me all the way through the episode. Basically, there were three stories they were focusing on. They focused on Kane, we focused on Pike, and we got a little of his backstory. And then we focused on Clark's group trying to find Luna, which they did, spoiler. And we'll get into those stories. So we'll start out with the first one, the simplest one to tell, Kane's story. So we see Kane with Pike and the Grounders who had, captured that Bellamy had handed Pike over to. They finally arrived in Polis, and they find out the place has gone to shit. There's people up on crosses, they're being tortured, there's blood all over the place. And then they run into Jackson, the one medic, and he starts telling them, hey, everything's okay. And then out comes Ontario and Jaha, and you realize, the chip cult has expanded. They not only do they have the commander, they've pretty much got all of Polis right now. And Jaha offers the chip to both Kane and Pike. They both reject it. And from there, we go with Kane's story, which is basically Abby convinces Jaha not to throw Kane in the dungeon with Pike and some of the other dissidents. And later she tries to seduce Kane, trying to get information out of him as to where Clark and her group is. But Kane's not buying. He realizes that Abby has taken the chip. And, of course, this means he ends up on a cross being tortured. And eventually Jaha's like, well, it doesn't look like we can convince you even with torture. So then he puts a gun to Abby's head, and this convinces Kane to take the chip. And that's basically Kane's story. I thought it was pretty good. Once again, it's one of those things, will he take the chip or won't he? Will this be the end of Kane? I had a feeling he was going to take the chip just because I haven't heard anything about the actor leaving the show. So I didn't think he'd die. Although, I gotta say, I am confused with why he was resisting in the first place. Now, the big thing is, they're trying to get Kane on their side because they think he can help them find Clark. But my attitude is, how? He didn't even know Clark had came back to Arcadia. Remember? It's like after Bellamy betrayed Pike, he went with the Grounders. Another thing, we'll get to it, but with like I said, then Clark shows up. So he doesn't know anything about Luna. He doesn't know anything about the chip. He doesn't know anything about that plan until they tell him about it. So why does he think that if he takes the chip and becomes one of the chip cult zombies, he's going to be able to give them that information? He could have saved himself a lot of pain if he had taken the chip earlier. I know he doesn't want to be a part of the chip cult. Who would? But still, his motivations didn't seem confusing. But that's enough about Kane. Let's move on to Pike. So we see that Pike, once again at the beginning, I explained he was with Kane and they were separated. Pike went to the dungeon with a bunch of the other resistance. There's like 3% of the population does not take the chip. And they end up being tortured and thrown into this dungeon. So he ends up in this dungeon, shackled to a wall. And who else is in the dungeon but Murphy, who we'll establish does not really like Pike. And Indra, who does not like Pike, seeing how he wiped out 300 of her people. She decides to inflict some revenge on him, giving him 300 cuts. Which, honestly, he got off light because I believe it's 1,000 cuts for, your normal Grounder punishment. When Gustav, the one guy who betrayed Lexus, got cut, I think it was 1,000 times. In this case, it's just 300. Anyway, as he's being tortured, we flash back to his backstory. We find out that he knew that the 100 were being sent down to Earth. Jaha and Kane and Abby had a meeting with him and told him this, and that he needed to up his classes with the delinquents. And we find out that, no one really liked him as a teacher. I was kind of surprised by it. I thought he, with Clark or someone, he was like their mentor. That was his backstory. Turns out he's just, no one liked his class because they never thought they would go down to Earth. And, he is trying to teach him. He's got to deal with Murphy being a smartass, Jasper being the smartass, and just no one paying attention to him at all. Eventually, he has another meeting with Jaha, and he's trying to explain this to him. And we learn, God, what a shit Commander Jaha was. I mean, not Commander, Counselor. Or Chancellor. What a shit Chancellor he was. Where Pike is saying, hey, why don't you send me down with them? And Jaha's like, no. And I'm like, why wouldn't you send him down? It's like, they all go down, they all die. Oh, the Ark can't be saved, and then everyone dies on the Ark. You send Pike down, they establish that they can breathe and whatnot, and then he gets would have gotten the camp up and running. Everyone would have survived. They would have done better with Pike. Jaha was a shit Chancellor. We'll just put it at that. I really did like the flashbacks. We learned a little bit about Pike, like why he was, because no one took him seriously. And it turns out he was right about everything as far as survival. And we get to see some of our past delinquents, some of the delinquents who've died. Like Monroe was there, Fox was there. I'm pretty sure I saw John McGembe, Ramona. She was one of the ones who got killed by the Grounders at one point. A lot of, like, if you look at them, I think Dax, the one who tried to kill Bellamy. And not just delinquents, you also saw Commander Shumway, or Gordon Shumway, I think his name was. We get to see him again. So you get a lot of, like, all the, dead delinquents back. So that was interesting. And then, of course, Pike, as he's being tortured, Murphy pretty much is able to convince Indra not to kill him because they're going to need his help in escaping. And that was Pike's story. And I'll just give a quick synopsis of what happened to Clark and her group. They follow the map, and they end up at this one point where there's all these, like, rock formations. And they thought it was supposed to be a village, but it's just a bunch of rocks, like little pillars, and this little inlet. And, they can't figure out what's going on. And I already knew what was going to happen before it happened. I thought it was a beacon point, and they needed to start out like a fire. And, of course, there was a little more to it. It's like they had to throw in a certain leaf that, like, when you throw it into the fire, it turns it green. That was a signal fire. And then we get a look at the boat people, grounders, who come in with scuba gear. That was awesome. And eventually, the boat people, they capture Clark's group, and they say, hey, if you want to go see Luna, you need to drink this. And it's like this sedative that knocks them out. So they all get knocked out, and then they get taken to this oil rig, and we finally get to meet Luna. Luna, who we've heard about since season 1, this mysterious character. She walks in, just normal-looking girl, probably in her 20s or something. Some freaky hair, I gotta say. Looked nice, but just really big hair. That was a surprise. I don't know what exactly I was picturing. I know in season 1, I thought she was like an old lady, because she was like the leader of the tribe, so I just had this picture in my mind that she's like a hippie type with like gray hair. And then when they established that she was probably Lex's age because she was at the conclave, I thought she was more like a warrior type, like even blonde. Of course, she's another brunette. And, Clark offers her the chip, but she doesn't want to take it. Turns out Luna's a pacifist. That's a bit of a surprise, You got Lexa, who was, the warrior, and then you got Ontario, who's the would-be warrior, and now we've got Luna, and apparently she ever since the conclave, she decided she's never going to kill anyone again. And she has no interest in being the commander. Kind of see that coming because, then he still needs some conflict. I didn't think she was going to take it right away. But, it'll be interesting to see what they do with that character. How much of a pacifist is he? What is she doing on that oil rig? What's her deal? And I think they said we'll see more of her in season 4. So I don't think she's going to be that important for the rest of this season. I think she's probably is going to be like Clark trying to convince her to take the chip, and she won't take it. And they have to figure out another way to take out Allie 1. And those are the 3 basic stories. Altogether, I thought it was a very interesting episode. I really did like the Pike stuff, especially going back, seeing all your past delinquents. I like the reveal of Luna. I like how they didn't stretch that out all season long. It was a bit of a surprise that she's a pacifist. And now Cade's story, it was all right, One thing I forgot to bring up is, how the fuck did they Jaha, Abby, Jackson, and all of their people get there before Kane and his group. Kane and their group left early before them, so they must have had a lead. Yet somehow we've got Abby, we've got Jackson, we've got Jaha. When it was just Jaha, I wasn't that suspicious. It was like, well, he's a crafty guy. I think he figured out a way to get there before. But how the hell did they all get there? Everyone from Arcadia is basically in Polis before Kane and that group of grounders, who, as far as I know, were on horses. I mean, maybe they were on foot, and then the Arcadia people, because they weren't taking breaks, because they're all on the chips, they just kept running and running. But still, I mean, yeah, what a plot hole. But not enough for me to hate the episode. And I'm looking forward to the next 3. The big season finale. We'll see who survives and how they get out of it, and maybe an idea what season 4. But before I go, I've got one more theory to push on you, and that is about Luna and Lincoln. I think they used to be lovers, or at the very least, Lincoln got Luna out of Polis before she could be killed by Lexa. It's sort of like we knew that he was banished from his tribe for some reason, and I think it's because he saved Luna. Now, maybe that means that they were lovers, maybe they don't. And I think because, like when they show up to the boat people, and they're like, who are you? Why should we help you out, sky people? And they say Lincoln. You see this change on the people's face. Like, ooh, Lincoln? Well, we've got to help you. And that's what Luna asks. Like, where's Lincoln? Why is Lincoln so important to them? At the very least, I think that Lincoln got her out of Polis. When Lexa and the other Nightbloods back when were killing one another at the Conclave, Luna says, whoa, shit, I'm not into this shit. I'm getting the fuck out of here. I think Lincoln was the one who helped her escape. And that's why he's so important to her. And just maybe they're lovers. And that's why it's going to be awkward between her and Octavia when she finds out, oh, and you replaced me. I mean, he's dead, so it's not going to be that much drama. But still, there'll be some awkwardness there. We'll see if I'm right.